The sun shone brightly, birds sang sweetly. It was the first day of summer vacation. 4 friends, Jack, Emily, Peter, and Lucy, were excited. They were staying at their grandparents' house in the countryside. Behind the house was a large forest. It was dark and mysterious. The children had never been allowed to go there, but today, curiosity got the better of them. "Let's explore the forest," whispered Jack, his eyes twinkling with excitement. The others hesitated for a moment. The forest seemed a little scary, but the lure of adventure was too strong to resist. Together they crept towards the edge of the woods. "We'll stick together," said Emily, trying to sound brave. And with that, they stepped into the cool, shadowy woods. The forest was different than they had imagined. The air was cool and damp. The sunlight struggled to reach the forest floor through the thick canopy of leaves. Strange and wonderful plants grew everywhere. As they walked deeper, the children noticed something odd. The trees seemed to be whispering to each other. Their leaves rustled softly, even though there was no wind. "Do you hear that?" whispered Lucy, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like the trees are talking," exclaimed Peter. A wise old oak tree creaked and groaned. Its voice boomed through the forest. "Who disturbs the peace of the woods?" The children were taken aback. They had never heard a tree talk before. Before the children could answer the oak tree, a small, furry creature scurried down from its branches. It was a squirrel, but not like any squirrel they had seen before. This squirrel had bright, intelligent eyes and a mischievous grin. "Don't mind Old Majesty," chuckled the squirrel. "He likes to grumble. You must be the children from the village. I'm Squeaky. Welcome to Whispering Woods." The children were amazed. The squirrel spoke. Squeaky told them that Whispering Woods was a magical place. Many secrets and adventures awaited those who dared to explore its depths. "Would you like me to show you around?" offered Squeaky. "There's a hidden treasure you might find interesting." The children were thrilled. A real adventure with a talking squirrel as their guide. This was turning out to be the best vacation ever. Squeaky led the children deeper into the forest. They followed winding paths, hopped over gurgling streams, and ducked under fallen logs. They saw amazing creatures along the way. A family of deer with silver antlers, a wise old owl with twinkling eyes, and a mischievous rabbit that kept disappearing into thin air. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the trees, Squeaky stopped at a fork in the path. "This is where it gets tricky," he said, his brow furrowed. "The path to the treasure is hidden. You'll have to find your way." The children looked around, puzzled. There were 2 paths, both covered in leaves and looking exactly alike. "How will we know which way to go?" asked Emily, a hint of worry in her voice. "You'll need to use your courage and your wits," said Squeaky. "And remember, the greatest treasure is the friendship you share." And with a wink, he disappeared into the undergrowth. Feeling a little lost without their guide, the children decided to take the path on the left. They walked for what seemed like hours. The forest grew darker and the air became heavy with the scent of damp earth and unknown flowers. Suddenly they heard a loud roar ahead. The ground began to tremble beneath their feet. They hurried forward and gasped in amazement at what they saw. A raging river, its waters churning and foaming, cut across their path. It was too wide to jump over and too deep to wade across. "Now what do we do?" asked Jack, feeling a knot of fear in his stomach. "We can't turn back now," said Lucy, her voice trembling slightly. "We have to find a way across." They looked around for a way across the river, but there was no bridge in sight. Section 6. The Bridge of Bravery. Just when they were about to give up hope, Peter noticed something strange. A series of large, flat stones were sticking out of the water, forming a rough and wobbly path across the river. "Look!" he shouted, pointing excitedly. "Maybe we can cross on those stones!" The others looked fearful. The stones were slippery with moss and the water rushed fiercely around them. It looked very dangerous. "It's our only chance," said Emily, taking a deep breath. "We have to try." One by one, the children carefully stepped onto the first stone. They held hands for balance, their hearts pounding with each step. The river roared angrily around them, trying to pull them in, but they were determined to succeed. With courage and teamwork, they slowly but surely made their way across the treacherous bridge of stones. Section 7. The Hidden Treasure. Safely on the other side, the children collapsed onto the soft grass, exhausted but triumphant. They had faced their fears and overcome the challenge together. As they caught their breath, they noticed something glimmering under a nearby bush. It was a small wooden chest, beautifully carved with images of animals and flowers. With trembling hands, Jack lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft velvet, lay a collection of beautiful objects. A silver compass, a magnifying glass with a pearl handle, a book bound in leather, and a telescope that gleamed in the fading light. "We found it!" exclaimed Lucy, her eyes shining with delight. "The hidden treasure!" The children gathered around, their faces filled with awe and wonder. They had faced their fears, used their wits, and found something truly special. But the greatest treasure of all was their friendship, which had grown even stronger through their adventure. Section 8. The Journey Home. As darkness fell, Squeaky reappeared, a wide grin on his face. "Well done," he chirped. "You found the treasure. I knew you could do it." The children thanked Squeaky for his help, and showed him the treasures they had found. He was very impressed with their courage and determination. "Now," he said, "it's time for you to go home. It will be dark soon, and your grandparents will be worried." Squeaky led them through a secret path that wound its way back to the edge of the woods. As they stepped out of the forest and into the warm evening air, they felt like they had been on an incredible journey. They couldn't wait to tell their grandparents all about their adventures in Whispering Woods. Section 9. Friends Forever. Back at the house, their grandparents were relieved to see them safe and sound. The children gathered around the fireplace, their faces flushed with excitement, and recounted their tale of talking trees, a friendly squirrel, a roaring river, and a hidden treasure. Their grandparents listened with smiles and nods, secretly amused by their grandchildren's wild imaginations. They knew that the forest held many secrets, but they also knew that the greatest treasures were the bonds of family and friendship. As they drifted off to sleep that night, the children knew that they would never forget their adventure in Whispering Woods. They had learned that with courage, kindness, and a little bit of luck, anything was possible. And most importantly, they had learned that the best adventures are always shared with friends.